Welcome and hello and welcome. And thank you for joining me on this extremely special Monday edition of Un Poco Mas, the show where we give you just a little bit more. And today, that little bit more is a very shiny forehead with a receding hairline. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. But it's all I can do. I would like to welcome, of course, the very, very important, the VIP of VIPs, the one and only Princess J. Number one in the charts and number one in our hearts, folks. Sweetheart, right there. Just the best. Just the best. I wish the weekends went on forever so I didn't have to spend it with you turds and I could spend it with the greatest lady, Princess J. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining us today, sweetheart. I know you're extremely busy on a Monday, and thank you for gracing us with your presence. So, guys, welcome and hello, and welcome to the rest of you peons who I really don't care about. It's Vladi Z. It is not a lurker. God, keep forgetting to text not a lurker. I apologize about that. I mean to do it, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm setting up the stream, and I'm going desk to desk and phone to phone, and then my brain is just forgot to put on my freaking hat, my Nio hat. What is going on, folks? Is it Monday or is it Monday? Oh, God. Oh, somebody hit me in the face with a baseball bat, if you know what I mean. It's the great Alberto Berti Aviles, moderator extraordinaire, the man who wields the wrench with a sort of aggressive tenacity that you can only sort of anyway, guys, welcome and hello, and welcome. Thank you for joining me. I want to talk a little bit of Nio. I'm going to talk SoFi. SoFi, they're playing that little game around 11. When you get into sort of an equilibrium, a teeter-totter with a stock, it makes runs and it reaches little plateaus. SoFi blew right through 10 and it's kind of hanging out at 11, which is absolutely fine. It's going to go up past 1360 by the end of the year. Very confident in that. But today, let's talk Nio, ticker symbol NIO. This one, I feel like it's just, I don't know what these guys are doing. Like when they started shorting, it's the same deal as when they shorted the hell out of SoFi from like 680. Like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys seeing here? Management has a ton of credibility in the bank, and they're telling you where this thing's going, and it's setting up as a pure interest rate play. I know we don't have the same type of transparency through China, but in August, I mean, the stock's down, I don't know, 1367. It looks like the low was 1361. And they're shorting and borrowing from there. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Friday, borrowed another 12 million shares. Today, they're saying, they've returned, 6 million of those back. I don't buy that because the stock would be going up more. No real human beings who are thinking and watching the fundamentals and the facts on the ground and understand, Nio's position vis-a-vis different levels of the Chinese government and how they're setting them up with MENA and what all this means and how it's going to give them capital to grow with, sovereign wealth fund money at very favorable valuations and arrangements. The Chinese government is in the bag for Nio. I mean, it's like they want the battery standard. It's not just the swap standard. It's the battery standard. And listen to what they're saying in the Middle East, guys. Listen to what they're saying in the Middle East. They're like, I don't know if these Reuters stories are true or not true, that in 2026, 2027, Firefly will do a hybrid only for overseas markets like Africa and possibly Europe if they still have it sounds like the tariffs are going to be for 5 years. So, and hybrids are not subject to those same high tariffs. So I guess that's why a lot of, one of the reasons, more Chinese companies are moving aggressively into, hybrid vehicles. But I don't know if that report's going to turn out to be true. And in any case, a lot can change in 2 or 3 years, given geopolitics. Europe might find that arrangement of being in a trade war with China is just not favorable to them. And they might also find out that even with the 30%, tariff, they're not going to be able to outcompete the Chinese at the bottom end, no matter what. And they're better off trying to adapt and trying to move forward with what they have. I mean, Mercedes has some good stuff. BMW has some good stuff, but you just have to move aggressively, and their governments should be helping their industry move into the future rather than, I think, trying to start a trade war with China over EV. Because yes, the government has subsidized EV in China, the development, but did the same thing in the United States. I'm sure it did the same thing in Europe. I mean, Airbus is like, you look at these companies, there's, I think, just a great deal of hypocrisy from the West. I mean, I look at the valuation, I'm like, okay, Rivian downgraded, whatever it is you want to call it, said they're going to deliver 48,000 vehicles this year. I mean, think about it, guys. That's 4,000 a month. Or was that for the quarter? I might be wrong. I might be talking completely out of my ass. I think that was for the year, but if I'm wrong, I apologize. No, it can't be, because they're not doing 200K pace. So my point is, ONVO is already on pace to do that many vehicles. They're already doing over 4,000 a month, and they've been around for 1 month. This is how fast things move in China. This is how well Nio is developing vehicles. I mean, I think a company like Li Auto, which is making a good vehicle, this sort of, new hybrid. It's like really an electric vehicle with a hybrid. It's not the same as like a Prius. It's, you have to just learn. It's a big battery, in other words. But I don't think these companies are going to be around. I mean, how do they outcompete BYD? Where is the moat? Where is the unique selling point? How do they compete on cost, on stock? None of it. It just doesn't make any sense. There's just this tremendous amount of demand right now, but the market's getting very saturated. There's going to be consolidation. I mean, people make a big deal of it. Nio's not making money. Li's making money. I don't think that matters at this point. I mean, it matters, of course, in the short run, trading around these ERs. But if you're a long-term investor, there is no other company I would pick right now in the EV space for the valuation than Nio. People are like, well, don't you like Tesla? I love Tesla. I think Tesla makes great vehicles. But at the current valuation, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like a lot of Tesla's profits this quarter, which looked so good, were, selling the regulatory credits. So that's really, if you're honest about it, it's a form of a subsidy, because where do those credits come from? I mean, it's government. Kind of creates the subsidy out of thin air and forces a competitor to pay it, but it's really functionally it's a subsidy to EV nonetheless. Guys, I was talking about this trend line. Here's why I think it's so important. If you go all the way back out here to, 2020, 2021, 2021, this line has really, it was, support all the way through here. Right at this point here, as you can see, changed to resistance. Very neat. Algo was working the stock 3 years. At least the algo's been controlling the stock almost completely for 3 years. But like, well, that's a conspiracy theory. That's been baloney. It doesn't hold this slope. This is programmed in to a computer that's trading these shares and marching this stock down at this slope. Just sure as shit. Isn't that illegal? Not really. No. I mean, if it's coordinated, if it's high frequency, different things are supposed to be illegal, but in the real world, none of it's illegal, like functionally. If you want to bring a stock down, you have the money, you have the firepower, you have the trade, you have some other trades going on in the background. People are like, listen, you fathead, you don't understand all these things. They're borrowing these shares for other trades, derivative trades, swaps. It's just over my pay grade, guys. I mean, you got to talk to some of the more sophisticated guys. Your invest with Henrys, your Uncle Bruce's, your people leading teams, your people that look like, they were selling used cars in the 70s. Oh, guys, I'm tired. I'm already exhausted. It's Monday morning. It's like, is it Friday yet? No, it's Monday morning. What? And I was like, and was like, No argument there, Alberto. I mean, there's so much volatility with Tesla. You get a ton of premium. So, I mean, if you're a smart guy, you know what you're doing. You're different than a lot of the retail crowd. You know, you understand options, you take the time to learn. That's what I hope you guys do if you want to play with options. You know, don't rush in, watch like, you know, a 1 hour video. Get an account and just paper trade and see how it works. Like, don't be afraid of making some paper trades. Paper trade is for no money. It's, you know, a practice account basically. And there's a lot of places that let you do that. Just get in there and just start making the trades you see, and you'll see this worked, this didn't work. This is how I have to get out of the way when things go the wrong direction. Rolling, as they say, also very popular in jiu-jitsu. Goes, hey man, you want to roll? I'm like, nah, man. I'm at a restaurant. Like, dude, I don't know, man. I'm like the jiu-jitsu mecca. Some of these guys are just complete mental defectives. It's like, nobody wants to roll. We're not in a fucking gym. Like, what are you talking about? I'm just a big guy. I'm not looking, I'm an old fat guy. I'm not looking to like get jujitsu'd right now. You know, I'm trying to eat a fucking hamburger here. Oh, excuse me, a cheeseburger. Anyway, yeah, some of these guys has been hitting the head like way too many times, and it's kind of hazardous walking around. But anyway, so why do I say this is so important? I mean, 3 tests. It took 3 years to make 3 tests. The slope is incredibly consistent, and then you have this much flatter line down here that's just going all the way downward. Again, very, very consistent, but less slope. You're making just the longest, slowest, most controlled wedge in the history of wedgies. Okay, and then zoom into what's happening now around this line. Okay, you're consolidating right around it, a little bit below it. I mean, when you're talking about drawing a line for 3 years, this line might actually be here. But the point is, you're seeing this go over the line, come back, test the line, consolidate right on it for 6-7 trading days, make another test, come back, test it again. This is unusual. Stock closed, you know, where it opened. You don't see that many neutral candles. It's pretty odd. And then, you know, again today, just doesn't look like the stock is breaking down below this line. And why is that? Well, companies this good, selling this many cars, ramping all these their stock prices don't tend to go below 0. That's why sometimes, you know, hedge funds and these different Carlyles and all these, you know, shorts and whatever, think about reprogramming your algorithm more than once every 3 years. Take a look at it. Hey, we're down in the 3s. Companies turning things around fundamentally. Governments funding the hell out of them. New partners constantly. Nope. Let's short the hell out of it from 361. Right off the bottom that we created. Like, their algo brings it down here, and then they don't really seem to take advantage. That's why I get the distinct feeling I don't really know what's going on. Perhaps some of you far smarter individuals can tell me. What's up, Jay Gatsby? Make my balance great again. I went 200, not as confident as you. It is rolling, just paying extra to take a loss. Yeah, that's exactly. But you prevent yourself from going to 0. I mean, that's the whole idea. You salvage what's there. You start a new position that gives you more time, more headroom, both, generally both. So, you know, you just reset your trade. You definitely take a loss. A lot of people make it sound like, oh, I just rolled my position. No big deal. Well, if you were directionally wrong about where the stock is going, then you lost money. Most of the time. There's very few times you can construct trades where you always win. It just doesn't exist. So you can construct trades with high probabilities of winning, 80%, 85%. It's 85%, you're not going to make that much money. You're going to make less money, less risk, less money. Just data. There's all these Greek letters, but you can learn those. If you want to rush a sorority, guys, learn those letters. That's very, very important. And don't go out with any... No, never mind. Anyway, guys, welcome and hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me. It's Un Poco Moss. I personally think Nio's going back to the double digits. I'm not saying the stock's going back to 60, but I mean, look at these bull runs here. I mean, but if you look at this, guys, even from here, even back in February 2021, the algo was working off of this line. I just don't know how anybody could not see that. And then it's just kind of broken. I think the stock is just consolidated enough. And I think the fundamentals are kind of matching with absolute zero here. And I just think it's going to make a big move up. I mean, a lot of people are talking about this, Chinese People's Congress, what they're going to actually announce in their resolution after their meeting. If the stimulus is huge, people think it's going to be, really big for the EV sector, retail sector in general, consumer, manufacturing, everything essentially in China. Obviously, one of their primary focuses is just, the health of the housing industry because of the real estate market, all the accounting scandal, the whole thing. You guys know that story. But anyway, I'm looking at this from from like a 10 billion market cap. The margins are improving. The deliveries are improving. People are saying, they're going to introduce Firefly at Nio Day already. They're covering all the sectors, not even getting into swap. And they're actually building more swap stations right now. This is the story about the hybrid car. It was on Reuters. Nio's co-founder, president, Quinley, I forget his name. But anyway, he came out and said, no, that's not true. Just the other day, it's going to be, fully electric, fully swappable, just like our track record. So I don't know. So Nio adds 65 swap stations. This is, big increase in their pace. They had been really behind, and all of those were Gen 4 swap stations, which can serve as ONVO. So that's really good news. If the hybrid car thing is true, I think that is actually good news. But the point I was going to make, they're talking about you need hybrids in Africa because the charging infrastructure isn't strong. That just lends itself to Nio building this ecosystem with a solar, with little solar farms right next to these swap stations. They could become that power grid for these small communities in Africa, different places, developing world. The possibilities here are just astonishing. And I think China sees that. I think they're cognizant of it. I think they're awake to it. I think they're awake to what Nio can be. I mean, I think they see the mega packs. I think they see the two-way, charging with the grid, selling power back when they need it, taking power from it. I know individual EVs can do that. They're plugged into home chargers, but it's just much more decentralized, much more difficult. I just think it creates a huge problem that Nio solves. I don't know. People are just having a hard time articulating why swap doesn't make sense, why it's not better. The only thing I've heard is, well, you own your own battery, you control it, the health. I don't view that as a positive. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's spin. And, the fact that CATL says they're going to, aggressively build out swap to 10,000 swaps, they're the biggest battery company in the world. They supply more EV batteries than anyone else by far, like more than double BYD, I think. So if anyone's in a position to understand the market and understand the demand, it's them. And, Nio has a 10-year head start in terms of the engineering, at least 5 years in terms of building it out. They only have a few swaps right now. Makes all the sense in the world that CATL would buy them out for a huge premium. Just makes a ton of sense to me. CATL could definitely develop batteries with that footprint, with that spec. There's just no reason why they couldn't. Not saying that's going to happen. I have no idea, but why would the Chinese government want two completely disparate, non-compatible swap networks being built next to each other on real estate? It's bad for the grid. It just doesn't make sense to me. Nio makes sense to me. They got it right years and years and years ago. And yeah, people see it now because Nio did, 2.6 million battery swaps last month or whatever it was. And that means that every single Nio ever built, swapped more than 4 times last month. Think about it. Think about it. A weird character, that like Nazi pawn shop owner from Falling Down. You know what one of these is? Think about it. Like, dude, don't fuck with Michael Douglas today. He's not in the mood for any of your Nazi propaganda. A very, very bad idea. Anyway, yeah, weird knit cap. I don't know why that character stuck with me. Is we need one of these. He's like trying to sound like a shoulder-fired missile. Anyway, guys, welcome and hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me. So I think CATL is endorsing the fact that Nio got it right and a lot of others got it wrong. I think every level of the Chinese government is, shouting that from the rooftops. I think the MENA deal is organized by the Chinese government because they want to own the battery standard, the swap standard, and basically everything else. Let's do another quick look at the live short interest. So yeah, they're returning, returning 15 million shares today. So you'd expect the stock to be way up. It's not really. So I don't know. It's curious how this borrowing works because they're borrowing these shares without selling the shares short in a lot of cases. But the short itself has actually been increasing. It's up to 14.33% of free float or 191 million shares. And then if you look at the availability, earlier on, it was all the way down to 200K. It's since back up to like 2.2 million as they supposedly return all these shares. But so much of this is a fugazi, guys. Just and borrowing, returning 12 million, 15 million shares a day. It's definitely effing with the price. I don't know exactly how. I don't know exactly what trades it's for behind the scenes. Like I said, it's just too complicated for me to really understand. But the one thing I know is I don't think this is a $5 stock. I think it's been suppressed here. They just did a pump to 750. I think it's going back up to double digits. I think, you're starting to see hedge funds talking about it. I think friends of the Communist Party are definitely accumulating shares as they push this thing worldwide. Challenges in Europe, I think, are overblown. I mean, Nio only sold like less than 1% of their cars for export even before these tariffs. So they can pause that, let the government work it out with the EU, and then restart. But in the meantime, they can just devote all that energy to MENA and probably sell those cars at a higher margin. There's a lot less competition, a lot less regulation. They can build out infrastructure with basically probably no red tape because these governments are on board thanks to China. So just have a lot of exciting things going on, guys, with this company. I don't see $5. I think it's being just completely artificially suppressed. And I think, at a certain point, these guys are going to have to pay the piper because I think they've been wrong. This company's not going anywhere. It's not going bankrupt. Yes, it's still losing money. It may not make money for another year or two yet. It's not a problem. They can get cash from the government anytime they need it. Get cash from CYVN or whatever the fuck that acronym is. Just doesn't matter, guys. I gotta get some work done. Appreciate you guys joining me. It's Nio. I think it's about poised right now to start moving up. Again, the algo is just a few orders here, but algo just locked on. I have never seen, I don't know if I've ever seen, smart money control a stock this tightly on a slope like this for 3 straight years. It's just kooky. But they got a hard on for this company. Tells me, accumulate at 5 for a move up. What are they going to take it to like negative 40? I don't know. I like the stock, guys. I just like the stock.